It's a Tuesday podcast. I'm talking about an herbal medicine I gave to Nat, and
thank you so much for dropping off that big bottle. You went and bought that for me?
I had it. I had backup, and I gave you my secret stash because it sells out, and I'm like, oh my! So I have 2 bottles of it for when it happens.
When I take it, like, cause I take a big spoonful, I usually have to like sit with it, and then I'm just like, Natalie, swallow. And it doesn't taste bad. It's just thick.
I know. I love it.
So you're just like, Kate, just take it, go. Because I was just like,
drop it like it's hot. So it's Tuesday. This is a conversation between Nat and I had to keep calling her when I was watching the Gabby Petito Netflix series on her murder.
And I had just, we followed it live when it happened, and I had just finished
the disappearance, and we were all on tour, and we were all talking about it because it was so mind-blowing, because it was happening in real life, and people were being their own investigators of the actual case on TikTok, and they were like, I saw this, I saw him here,
So this is a story of a couple, a young couple that basically took a road trip, and then basically what happened was he came home, she didn't come home. Everyone's like, what the fuck is she? She had been murdered by him.
So I'm watching the series, okay? And there's so many things that come up for me because while I'm watching it, and I don't blame anyone, because because there was like it was a very intense conversation on Instagram, because I don't blame people, because we got to see the full picture. People living it didn't get to see the full picture. You can only piece together. You can't piece together a second. When you can piece together everything, you're like, how do they not know? I'm not going to say how did they not know. What I'm going to say is, as a mom, I was watching it to learn. I wanted to learn what the series of events were, because I think I said to you, or I said to Kath, because maybe you were barfing or something, I had to call throughout the process because it was so mind-blowing. But she's a normal, well-adjusted, from a good family girl. Like, everything, had friends, everything. Her parents are amicably, they're divorced, but
friends, past ex-boyfriend that was really nice, had like a nice relationship with him.
Amicably, the parents got along, they communicated, they both had other partners who seemed to all be
Everybody
cohesive.
loved her. 4 of them loved her. She seemed to love them. No problem with the family.
Had siblings.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this as someone who's like, okay, he was in her life in high school. Everyone was kind of like, in hindsight, you can say, oh, he was weird, but no one seemed to really be shocked when they started dating. Okay. So number one, he was kind of like the outsider, but he had friends. He was in a band. He was totally normal. They somehow reconnect, even though he had already tried to get with another girl and be like, so they reconnect, and it's apparently love at first sight. They're both out of high school, just out of high school. Flag 1 is his parents are never talked about prior to, like, what I was confused about was, if they were in high school together, who did he live with? And why was he homeless for a while? Because remember, he was living like homeless, and then he ended up at that girl's house in the beginning. But she was at home with her parents. So I was
because I think that they were in a different place, because then
the parents moved.
And then he moved to Florida. Remember, Florida, and then she went and lived with them. There was at Florida. She went and lived with his parents.
Okay,
which started off great.
So she said the relationship seemed fine, although the text message seemed different. But she seemed fine with her parents, and they're like, he was nice. Like, one was like, he was a little quiet, a little off, but like, for all we knew. And flag 1, she did not tell them she was dating them until she was moving. She did not say, I'm dating him. She said, we are friends. And then they're moving, and she's like, sorry, this is more than friends. That would be, I think, behavior change number 1, when she knows right away something's not right. I'm thinking as a mom.
Yeah. And I also think, like, when she talked to her ex, she had like these dreams of what she wanted to do was, go off and get a van and explore and do all this stuff. And we'll get to the part about her wanting to have a YouTube channel and vlogging. Oh God, that got under my skin. His lack of support and how insecure she was about creating, because he looked at it. Oh, that bothered me. But it didn't work out with her ex-boyfriend, and I feel like it wasn't really him. It's just he was going to do her dream with her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she wanted to do it, and then he's like, I'll do it too. And she's like, I love that. Like, I
Yeah.
love that you want to like make my dreams come true, and we can go in this van and do this. I feel like that was a big part of it, is just like, he was going to be her partner in living out what she wanted to do.
Oh, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy was like, I was going to do that with you too. So we don't know why they broke up. So he he basically isolates her and like takes her to Florida, and she doesn't tell her parents till the day she's moving. She's like, we're moving. And right away, I'm kind of like, I was saying to Nat, at 21 and 22, that's really a hard time to parent, because they're adults and you kind of have to let them fail and fall and do their thing.
And didn't you leave and move with a guy at that age?
Younger.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
But you weren't stopping me.
No.
But I was like, okay, so is this at the time where you're like, I'm always here for you. I'll never judge you, and I'll never make you do something you don't want to do. Like, at what point do you tell your kids, like, I am always here for you?
Yeah.
So I was thinking in my head, what is the message they need to know? Because most parents, if you call and you're like, he's doing this to me, you're freaking out and you're like, leave him. Like, you know what the right thing to do is, so you don't share it with anybody. Because you're like, I know this is wrong, but I love him. They moved to Florida.
Thank God for that friend in a way. Although I just wish she could have done more.
So the parents are weird AF.
Yeah.
Well,
they start to realize. So she moves in and she's like, oh, the mom's really nice. Everything's cool. Also moving in with someone else's parents. But then the mom, she starts to realize it's a really weird relationship between mom and son, like a little too close for comfort. It's like she's jealous of Gabby because of her relationship with Brian. And she's like, that's weird.
And Gabby's spending too much time with Brian, even though they moved out to Florida together. Sorry, where's Gabby going to go? She moved out with your son. Like, where the hell is she going to go? So I guess they end up getting their own place or something.
She's basically like, she changes the address and basically tells Gabby in not so many words, you're not welcome here anymore.
Yeah. But doesn't tell Gabby. Her mom
changes the address.
Her mom gets a change of address, being like, have you guys broken up? Are you guys not together? And she's like, what? No. She's like, your address is no longer that. It's been changed back to our address.
She's like, I guess I'm not welcome here anymore.
So I think they get a place. I can't remember that part. And Gabby goes and gets a job and a friend
at Taco Bell.
She loves Taco Bell.
She loves her. Because she has a community of people.
She's loves having people. Fun. She loves people.
She loves people. She's like, I got to make money to do this shit.
He's not working. She's working.
He is jealous of her relationship with Taco Bell. And
working. He's jealous.
And basically saying, like, you work at Taco Bell. Sorry, you're making money.
So it begins to show her one friend who she made begins to see that he's really jealous. And is kind of like, he's really jealous, and she can't come out. Her boyfriend steals her ID so she can't go out with her friend.
Oh, so many red flags.
Again, how do you teach your kids how do they know?
And also, if you bring your good friend, who's a nice person, out and your boyfriend ignores that friend, remember when they went to the beach and he just didn't pay any attention to her?
Yeah.
What's the problem? Why do you have a problem with me having a friend?
I guess he was smart enough. He was manipulative enough to take her away from
everybody.
So as she's getting like more and more excited about Taco Bell, loves working, making money, saving money. She's apologizing for making money, apologizing for him feeling insecure, being like, please stop, please. Like, I love you. This is this. He proposes. She doesn't tell her mom again. And there's no ring.
No.
Her mom finds out online on a social media post, and her mom's like, sorry, what? And Brian never talked to the parents about it. And I guess if you're in a very traditional relationship, you'd have some idea that you were going to propose to your daughter.
And you'd also call your mom right away and tell her.
They post to Instagram first. So her mom's like, sorry, what? Brian begins to realize that Gabby's kind of getting frustrated with his behavior, which is what the documentary says, and based on text. So they piecemeal together kind of what happened, because she has so much footage. She has so many journal entries, and she has so many texts. Then they AI her voice, so it's like she's talking. It's kind of fucked up.
And it's so like in this also, and I'm glad my daughter watched it too, because I wanted to like these tricky things that people can do to your mind, but also is that part of the dream of her going and going on this road trip was that she wanted to become a creator, which, from two creators, that is a real job.
Oh, yeah.
And you can make money at it. And he never really respected that that she took that seriously. And I could even tell when she was on video and he was around, she felt insecure about speaking and doing. She's like, it's so awkward when you're there. But without him, I'm sure she would have been a lot more confident. So he wasn't giving her the confidence to like follow her dreams.
No. So she has to kind of like hide, but she's like, I'm ready to make this van life. So he doubles down, gets the van because he wants to get her the fuck out of, my interpretation and what the documentary says, out of Florida and start traveling. So they basically get engaged, get in the van and go. They speed everything up and they just go. So she is like, I'm going to become a creator. Okay. So you see the footage online. No one knows how long the physical abuse happened for. I think her friend asked her once and she kind of avoided the question.
Mm-hmm. You could also see on the footage how fake they were. And like, that's another thing that I'm just going to say, like from influencer creator life, is that as long as she was like she was never going to be successful in her YouTube life as long as she had him there, because she had to fake it and it was so obvious.
Yeah, and she'd take it like a million takes to do the same thing.
And it was, yes, and everything about it was fake and it was obviously fake. She on her own would have been the cutest creator living this life on her own, but he made it fake. They were both like, the camera would go off and they'd both be like, oh God. So she's like, if you could just learn how to edit.
So I know. So you can see though she's getting frustrated with his like behavior. It's like she knows it's like not cool.
And it's like every time she gets a little bit more frustrated, he gets a little bit more scared that he's going to lose her.
Oh, yeah.
I feel.
So you never get the backstory. You never get how she feels. You never get like
till she reaches out to the ex-boyfriend.
But she doesn't go in to say, I'm scared. She doesn't go in to say something's going to happen. She doesn't go in to say like, I don't know how to get out of this. She doesn't go into like, it's like it turned so quickly. And I don't know though, because we'll never know behind the scenes, but it's like nobody had hands on her to know like her friend.
It's also crazy that she reached out to an ex-boyfriend and shared something because he knew something was weird and he was very like respectful of keeping it whatever, that it wasn't her parents.
Well, this is my main whole thing when I was watching this. So the cops pull her over. Okay. So they get pulled over because you hear the 911 call. Someone's called in and says there's a man hitting a woman and slapping and then punching. So they report two things that have happened. She runs away and then he goes back and punches her.
She is a tiny little woman.
So small.
Let's just put it out there.
So small. So there you have the cop footage of them driving behind her and he hits a curb and they're like, whoa. They turn on the sirens.
Because at first they think it's drunk driving.
No, they're just like, what's going on?
They said maybe they've been drinking. Why did he hit the thing?
True.
The reason was because they were fighting.
So here's where I struggle. And I'm not blaming the cops because I'm just thinking every city would have a different situation. But I'm like, are they not trained in this? They pull them over. She is hysterical, inconsolable. She can't breathe. She's so upset. And she has an old black eye. And she's got
scratches.
And she's got a bruise on her arm. He has scratches on his neck. They ask what happens. She says she can't really get out what happened.
I have OCD.
He wouldn't let me in the car.
I get OCD. And I basically saying I get crazy. And I'm the problem. I'm the problem. He says I need to calm down. And he's just trying to calm me down. And I'm essentially what she's saying is I went fucking crazy.
And so they ask him what happened. And he's like, I was just pushing her away. Even though there's footage even though the call is, he is slapping her. And then
I wanted them to say so many times, did you slap her? And I wanted them to ask her, did he slap you? Because slapping is very different than holding someone at a distance. But they didn't say that slapping word. And I was like, slapping isn't an accident.
No.
Slapping is slapping.
So then they go on to talk about the fact that, so he is laughing and smiling, talking to the cops and kind of being like, oh, I held her at a distance. And I held her and she scratched me. He's like, what did she scratch you with? And he's like, I don't know. There was nails and jewelry everywhere. Just kind of I don't know.
So she suffers from a lot of anxiety. And the cop, my wife does too.
Yeah.
This sounds exactly like my wife.
Okay. So yes.
Can you imagine the wife of that cop?
So they're being so thorough. They call in a female cop. They call in someone else. But what you realize they're being thorough in is keeping him Brian safe without ever asking her
Mhm.
or even thinking she's a victim.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of domestic survivors and victims were in our DMs and were like, listen, they're not trained, because I don't know what victim is going to say he abuses me, because they're so afraid of they're in the control cycle already, and she
Mhm.
doesn't know what to do. You don't know what to do or say. You don't know, there's no script for being a victim.
Mm-mm.
But she's crying and shaking in the car, and then she's like, I just want to call my mom. I just want to call my mom. So I'm like, at this moment, she wants her mom.
Mhm.
She did call her mom
Mhm.
after the fact when
Mhm.
things had calmed down.
Mhm.
I feel like I wish they had assumed she was a criminal and taken her to jail,
Mhm.
and then she could have called her mom and been like, this is actually
And her mom knew. They took him to a battered person shelter for the evening.
a hotel.
A hotel, and let him stay there for the night. It was, and I mean, it just goes to show he let that happen too. He's like, okay, I'll go stay there.
And gave her the van to be
To
by
be
herself.
alone.
He's like, the cops like, go have a shower and calm down.
But the craziest thing, you're so right, is how thorough the cops, the conversation, the thought of like, okay, well, we don't think anything can happen.
They went to the letter of the law. Let's go to the
law,
letter
but
of the law.
I would just hate myself if anything bad were to happen
To
to
him.
him. So let's just put him up for the night. Like I feel so bad for that female cop in that moment.
A bunch of them, because she was trying to be really thorough.
She was trying to be thorough, but if she just switched it and said, just in case anything happens, I want to keep her safe.
So then they even go on to say, the cop says, which is kind of like terrible, you separate them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they end up back together again, you've done what you can
Mhm.
do, and that's no skin off your back. Like, you've
Mhm.
done it, like, so let's not book them, et cetera, et cetera. And you're just like, if anyone had just taken them and separated them and like, hey, because they go, what's on your eye?
Mm-hmm.
What's on your arm? And she's like, oh, she doesn't answer. Then she goes on to say, he's grabbed me by my face before, or my neck. They don't investigate that. I'm not blaming the cops, because in this situation, if I don't know, I'm not a cop, I don't know. But I just am like, when the mom calls, I'm like, I guess, and I don't judge her either. Apparently there's 2020 of their interview that just came out. Did you see it? It was out last Friday. No, you're barfing. What I would hope, what I think we need to do as moms is say, give her a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Not tell them what to do. Say, here's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, go to a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you my credit card.
Mhm.
I'm booking you a room
Mhm.
right now. I'm going to fly down.
Mhm.
You seem really upset.
Mhm.
Let's just spend a few days together,
Mhm.
and then you can go back on your road trip. Let me
Mhm.
just come and like check in, like, no. And if she's
And
like,
not like, oh, stay away from that fucking
No.
asshole. You got to keep it like everything's cool.
yeah, I'm just going to come, like, let me just come check in. So she had no
Mm-mm.
reason to think that anything else was happening.
Mm-mm.
Like, the mom wasn't like, oh, she thought just a few things were weird, but you also have to let them go. I get that. I mean, I went to Europe at 18 and didn't call my mom once.
I know.
You know,
yeah.
so you have to sort of like
Mm-hmm.
let them go. But in that moment when she called, I don't know if she was
Mm.
crying. I don't know but if the cops were involved,
I know.
I'm not judging, because again, maybe you're like, the story, who knows what she actually said. If she
Yeah.
was like, it was just, we got pulled over because we bumped into something, like, it's
Mhm.
no, but they're just concerned, like, we're gonna take a break. So I would think that as I was watching, I was like, okay, so obviously she's afraid that she's gonna be like, you can't see each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid she's gonna be
Mhm.
taken away from him because she loves him.
Yeah.
So in this moment, we have to almost be their ally and not take them, just keep them close so you can be there
Mhm.
for them,
Mm-hmm.
and hope that she's able to confide in you
Yeah.
that this is what he's doing, and then you can't lose your shit again.
Yeah.
And you have to be like, okay, like, how can I support you right now? Like, I don't know if it's the best decision for you to keep on.
Yeah.
Like, if this is escalated,
Yeah.
maybe let's not go back in a van with him. Maybe
Yeah.
like, let's go home and you guys can go to counseling and figure it out.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm going to kill you. The guy.
I watch so many documentaries. Is this the one that ended in that they want to come out with Gabby's law, like a new law, that there are specific questions that you ask?
Oh, I don't know. I hope so.
It was either this or it was either this one or another. I'm pretty sure it's this one, but basically like it's like a list of questions that they would have asked her, that within those questions, like, I guess they got their research from all like abused whatever, there
Like,
would have been red flags. So more
right.
questions than the ones that they asked her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also as a parent, like I'm like, we're so uneducated in this area. Like I know nothing in this area. And I think what's hard is once they fall in love, you can't get them back.
You know what the other thing that one other thing I always found strange was that it didn't feel like any of the like she was on the road with this guy and maybe they didn't talk about this, but it didn't feel like any of her parents had access to Brian. They were never said that they called him even when he came back.
Yeah.
They never messaged him, they never called him when they were upset. Like I would have called.
I think they tried.
Okay.
And they wouldn't respond. Like he's not responding to me.
I know after when they didn't hear from them, but like on the road, if I would say, hey guys, let's have a FaceTime. Like,
oh,
like,
I know.
Or like a call. If it was my daughter's boyfriend, I'd be like, and I'm supposed to know him. Like my daughter's moved in with him. I want to call and be like, how's she doing? How's everything going?
But she said they were just friends and then just left and said,
yeah, but I mean, once they were gone, like you would think that you'd have like catch ups with the two of them, not just your daughter. It's even like if you're with another, if your child's out like on a road trip with another friend, make sure you have their phone, like that friend's phone number.
Yeah. I feel like part of it was.
And Life 360.
True. I feel like part of it was that she left, like the relationship was already developed and she probably knew it wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she knew to keep everyone, she learned right away that she needs to keep them at an arm's length.
Yeah.
And she fell hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like the relationship, she'd already set the tone for what it was going to be. And they didn't get to know him to be like, hey, I'm going to FaceTime you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If you don't know that person,
Yeah.
it is a boundary. Like I'm not calling my kids friends right now who they hang out with.
Yeah.
Even like some I would.
Yeah.
But not all of them. Like it's their their privacy of their relationship too, right?
Yeah. And I feel like if I had any worries, I would call anybody.
Yes, but I don't know. I think they were probably like, are we worried? Like, this is weird, but like I'm not worried. She's calling us. Like they were in communication because they were like, when she didn't start texting back, they're like, this is weird now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think texting's probably really scary because it's something we've become common with. So they're in touch with us and you can hear their tone. Like, oh, they're fine.
And you also know, you don't know that like someone's not looking over their phone. The phone isn't attached to the computer. The texts are coming up. You know, she was probably scared that anything she said, he could read and see.
So shortly after this, they have footage of them in a store. So they obviously get back together. Like we don't know how. I think they do a timeline of like when that was to when they show up together.
Pretty short.
Very short. And they have her walking out of store and you never see her again.
And I think he ends up finding out that she reached out to the ex-boyfriend.
Oh, you think that's what happened?
I think he's like, I'm at the end. She's about to walk. She's about to walk.
So we don't know what happens or like what the trigger is, but we do know he goes rogue. Like, but the van comes home.
He drives the van home. He says he flies home. He did not fly home.
Oh.
He drove the van home.
So he did leave the van for a while and like hops around and gets like hitchhikers and all the things. So then he comes home. Doesn't say anything.
Must have told his parents what happened.
He did. He wrote what he told his parents would happen. What you saw, what he said.
Yeah.
She was in distress.
Yeah.
He claims she was something happened in the water and when she was in severe distress. So he just ended her life because she was about to die. So
but during
kills
this time
her.
when she's missing, his parents will not respond.
No.
To Gab, it was so weird. It's like they weren't mad enough. You know, I don't blame the parents again, but like, if you know that your daughter's missing and the boyfriend and his parents are holed up and they won't talk to anybody, I'm breaking down their door.
The only thing is, it's very different in the States. They have guns that are legal. You're not allowed to go on people's property.
Everybody else was there.
But the cops went.
Yeah,
but they didn't step foot on their property.
Yeah, but
they were all around.
I get
what you're
so
saying.
annoyed that he was in there and he didn't have to answer to anybody.
No. So they call the police and here's what's also wild. They call the police and because it's in a different jurisdiction and she's missing in freaking Utah and then she comes over to like whatever, they're like, well, we'll go check it out. There's not much we can do. So they go and check it out and they knock on the door. And this is where it gets really weird. they knock on the door and they're kind of like, well, they knock on the door and they're like, yeah, we have a lawyer. You can call our lawyer. They're like, where's Gabby? And they're like, well, they got mad and she stayed there. And the cops are like, but do you know where she is?
She must be in a hotel.
And they're like, okay, but she's missing. And they're like, well, and
the mom was like, as a parent, they didn't have the heart to help us out. A person they apparently loved, their son loved, and they wouldn't even answer the question to help us out, like as a team.
So they go back to the car. The cops go back to the car, and it takes the person on the radio, I guess the dispatcher, to be like, I'd probably call this into the supervisor. Like maybe call this one into the supervisor and like just let them know what happened. It seems a little bit weird. Not a mandatory.
No.
You don't have to call the supervisor, but maybe.
Like I felt like there were so many times when people did the right thing, but it was just off. Like them doing that and the cops like calling the manager and deciding what to do. It's like all these things that people weren't lazy.
Jurisdiction. I think it's like jurisdiction. Like what
they weren't lazy in the law so much. Like in their people went out of their way to help out, but just in the wrong way.
So someone higher up is like, well, this seems a bit weird. Something's a bit fishy. They kind of talk about it like something's kind of off. Let's run the plates or something. And they find that the car belongs to Gabby. So now they're like, we need to talk to him. And he's like, nah, you can't talk to him. They're like,
well, then we're going to take the van. Okay.
Take the van. And they're like, you need to move your car. So they move the car. They take the van. And the whole shit show begins. And they actually still can't talk to him. The parents can still, because they don't have a body. So they don't actually have a body or a murder they have nothing. Just have a missing person with a van. So then they have to go and they take the van and they're like searching for something but TikTok goes wild.
And this is when like we were following this live.
TikTok finds.
There's YouTubers out there. There's a lot of people who like do this, like out there.
Find the van in a video, like a 5-second fucking clip, because people begin to be like, I was here, I was here, I was here, I was here. Also, they're looking to go viral too. If you're on TikTok doing videos, you're all looking for like that thing. So they find the video, they find the van, they find the thing, they start to backtrack, they find where the last place was, find her body, and then they let him go. They let it go so long.
They let him slip.
They let him go.
Now, so basically he slips out. He goes off.
He goes like fishing.
They have like a last night as a family together. They do an overnight with the sister and the nieces and nephews. He goes off. Do you think they were like, there's no way out of this, go kill yourself? Or not go kill yourself, like I'm going to go kill myself? Or they like just run?
Yeah, just go run.
It is so frustrating, those parents letting their son go. Like then he went off and he killed himself.
But there's lots of conspiracy theories he's still alive. And the parents are hiding him. They also
in the garden bed.
They also said that he there's like text message between the parents and the sister-in-law that are just disgusting. Like basically like just gross. Like someone in our DMs actually was like, it raises a question, how far would you go for your own kid?
That's exactly what it comes down to, is if your child showed up and said like basically along the lines of I've killed someone, do you protect and there'll be children, there'll be parents will say I protect my son no matter what. And that's what the mom said. I will hide a body for you.
She wrote a letter.
I'll hide a body for you. And there are parents, you can imagine, they'll be like, I would do anything for my child.
No, I wouldn't. And I hope my kids know that today.
Yeah.
And I hope they know that tomorrow, that no, because I feel like if they know that, then that gives you an entitlement that you
could get away with something.
That would also be the theory in the household. So you can do no wrong. You are an angel and I will protect you at all costs.
And they already said that there was a weird relationship between the mom and the son. I wonder, like, I mean, there must be, but like a stat of, let's not do dads. Let's just do moms. Moms, how many of you, if your child's like, an accident happened, things went too far, I killed, protect your child or call it in?
I'm calling it in.
Oh, I know we're calling it in. But like, what percentage of parents, and also, I think would you know if it came down to it, what you'd really do?
It wasn't an accident, so I think it's very different.
But he could have told her.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, he could have. But let me tell you, if your son accidentally murders his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Accidentally. I accidentally killed someone. That's very different than not seeing someone when they're crossing the street in the black and they're in their dark outfit and like you don't see them. That's an accident. Hit and run, like, no, terrible too. But if you can accidentally, it's a way of parenting. If you can, if you cannot hold them accountable and make them like grow up.
Well, Wade Wilson's dad, when he called him and confessed what he'd done, the first thing he did was call.
Exactly. That's a boundary.
Yeah.
And you need to know that that's like what I would do. Because
now he was also dangerous.
Yeah. But I think that he wasn't like, I'm going to hide you.
No.
No, it's like it's like you love your kid, but it's like if you lie, if you steal, I'm holding you accountable. We're not going to be like, okay, no worries.
But I do know that there are people out there who'd be like, I would do anything to protect my child.
Well, then I think the child could possibly murder someone. If I'm totally honest with you, I do believe that if that's your mentality, that's probably how you parent. Like probably because you don't believe that you think that they're above the rules and the law. Because especially if my son went and did something to a girl intentionally, especially having two sisters, I'd be mighty pissed. Especially because it is obvious. I don't know how many women are murdering men in self-defense, yes, but most are not.
Oh no,
most are not
no.
in an abusive relationship where they're murdering their husbands out of domestic violence.
No.
Anyways, it was I hope this wasn't too much of a triggering podcast. I guess we have to put that at the beginning, but it was a super interesting learning and it's on Netflix. And I guess I just did a 2020. I'm going to have to go find.
And even if you followed it, which I did, and a lot of people are like, oh, I already knew that story. I think the angle that they did from sort of like more like Gabby's perspective and having her AI voice and her journals, I think it's an interesting thing to watch. And I think it's something to, like if your kids are okay to, like your daughters are okay to watch it, I'd watch it and have conversations about it.
I'm so thankful they did that. It made me think differently. It made me realize that is a blind spot in my parenting that I have not even like occurred to have the conversation or what I would do if she was in a controlling relationship, because I realized from the mom's perspective, I could see her struggling with what do I do? Like she's an adult. I can only be there for you so much without really pissing you off. I'm so thankful her parents shared that, and I know it wasn't easy.
They've been so amazing with openly sharing their story in order to make sure this doesn't happen again. And there are so many details that
are really personal and be really hard to keep reopening. And I am thankful for them to do that, because I will tell you that what I learned and what I've thought about, I've seen a lot of stories, but she could be one of our daughters very easily. She could, just her way of life and her zest for life, and she could very much be that.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, guys. Weigh in. Let us know what you guys thought. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And a lot of you had a lot of amazing insights into how the cops and why it worked out, like why it happened, how it happened. And it was really informative conversation in the DMs. Let's keep it going. Hit us up in the DMs.